If your tires are so old, they literally remember the Alamo, that's a big O no. Thankfully, for all your car's big O no's, there's always a big O yes. Now through December 31st at participating Big O tires, save $70 instantly on sets of 4 Continental, Cooper, Goodyear, or Yokohama brand tires with paid installation purchase. Not valid with other offers. Disposal fees extra and up to 10% shop fee based on non-discounted regular retail price not to exceed $35 where permitted. See store for details.
Well. Funny thing happened on the way to the number 3 seed for the Kansas City Chiefs today. They are not the number 3 seed, and we're going to talk about that. Red Zone Extra, Facebook Live with the gang that covers the Chiefs, Sam McDowell, Herbie Teope. I'm Blair Kirchhoff. And in just a moment, I think we might be joined by Sam Mellinger. You'll see him enter the picture in just a few moments. He's got a little task to take care of before he gets here. Sam McDowell, I wanted to start with you, though, because you wrote about the reaction in the stadium the moment the number 3 seed flipped to the number 2 seed for the Chiefs. It happened late in the game, as everybody knows. What did you hear and see? And just take us through that.
Yeah, just to kind of set the scene first. I mean, the players were specifically told not to try and get updates today from the Patriots-Dolphins game. They were showing scores throughout the game here, but specifically not that one. That was the only game absent from the scoreboard.
Right.
But eventually, after the Chiefs were up 10 points, and the Chargers had, a minute and a half left or so, I think was about the timing here at Arrowhead. The game was pretty much over here, and a player told me, asked me not to use his name, but said he turned to a member of the communications staff and said, "What's the score of that Patriots game?" And it was about 10 seconds later that the Dolphins took the lead. And so he informed him, "Hey, the Dolphins just scored." And the way I described it in my story, it was like an old-fashioned game of telephone, to where it just trickled along the sideline, and we all saw the sideline going nuts immediately after the crowd did. And I think they probably would have known anyway, although some players didn't know what was going on. Austin Ryder told me he thought that they had announced something on the scoreboard. Charvarius Ward told Sam that he thought maybe a fan had come running off across the field. So it was just kind of funny the way that they found out. But it was actually kind of a cool scene here because the crowd was going nuts, but the players were just as enthusiastic as anybody out in the stands was.
Well, and so much at stake. Just in that one, in just a matter of moments, the whole AFC playoff structure changed.
Yeah.
And no small thing to go from the 3 to the 2.
It's a win. It's like you won 2 games in the matter of like 3 minutes here.
Right. And look, the Chiefs were facing a 3 seed in a wild card round game next Saturday or Sunday here at Arrowhead Stadium against some team. Sam has joined us, and Sam and I were coming up the elevator after the locker room, and I was talking about the other games that were going on in the second window today, and I'll borrow a phrase from our friend George Costanza. Jimmy cracked corn, and I don't care. No, I just don't. The Patriots are going to be in the 3 seed. Let them worry about who they're going to play in the first round game. So, Herbie, what does it mean to not have to play next week?
It's a week off, not for us. Well, technically, it's supposed to be a week off.
I think Sam will probably
for
take
the reports. But, we're going to be writing and working anyway. But for the players, it's that week off, and that's what a lot of people want. It's the opportunity to host a divisional round game here at Arrowhead Stadium, and it's huge for them. I found it interesting. Sam was able to dig out that some of the players knew, but Coach Reed downplayed that after the game, and he was saying that he found out because of the reaction of the crowd, and he said, I figured something good must have happened. But in the NFL, this late in the season, a lot of nicks, cuts, bruises, whatever you have it, and you saw it out there. A couple players went down, but they were able to go finish with the exception of Juan Thornhill. But getting this week off is huge for players.
Heck yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, Austin Ryder, when I was talking to him, actually said, he pointed at a bloody foot and said, "I'd like to give this a week off." So, yeah. And Kelsey said the same thing about the fact that there are some guys, and obviously 17 weeks of an NFL season, there's some guys that are hurting in there.
That's why a lot of teams are always gunning for that number 1 or number 2 seed, because you get that first round bye.
We've been saying this for a few weeks, so this isn't like, reverse engineered, right? Like the difference between the 3 and the 2 is more significant than the difference between the 3 and the 4. And that was And Andy Reid, interestingly, mentioned the point spread in his post-game
Did he really?
press conference.
Did he really?
Yeah, that's right, he did.
I don't know if I've ever,
What
if I can remember
What
that.
do you have it at?
He said 16. I think it was
Yeah.
17 and a half. Right?
Yeah.
I saw a tweet that it was the biggest by point spread, is the biggest upset in 30 years. So I mean, there's no way that
Wow.
that you could have
Wow.
Is that
expected
right?
that. Yeah.
That's stunning. I had no idea.
Yeah, it was tied with, there was another 17 and a half point game. But anyway, this team in particular, and look, like the one Thornhill thing is real and that's big, it's significant, that's going to change how they defend. But this team in particular, with any NFL team after 17 weeks, 16 games, has some stuff going on that they can rest. But this team in particular, I think, has more than most.
It's also a shorter path to the Super Bowl. And
Yeah.
instead of winning 3 games, now you just have to win 2. And that's big.
I saw a graphic during the broadcast. Maybe somebody who who's following us can repeat it, because I can't quote it exactly. But in the history of this playoff structure, it's like 80% of the teams that get to the Super Bowl do it with a 2 games, and 20% have to win 3 games to get there. So look who's joined us.
Hey, Vahe.
Look who's here.
Early, too.
I know.
5:30 deadline, 5:31 start. We're good. Along those lines, Blair, Patrick said something interesting in there, and it's really obvious, but the way he phrased it almost made you feel like this was 2 wins for the Chiefs today. I mean, they're a win closer to the Super Bowl. Obviously, you get the benefit of the rest, but you're a win closer. I mean, that's got to be a monumental thing. I'd love to find that exact stat about that 80% to having to win 2 versus 3.
So when I asked people to maybe let us know what that stat was, that's a call out to you guys to join in the conversation. Cody and Drizzy said we should pay attention to the Kevin Harlan call. I think we all have heard it, haven't we? That was amazing. The guy's incredible. The guy's incredible. Doing play-by-play for the Chiefs while he's here and calling the Dolphins the touchdown. It almost sounded like, I know he was caught up in the moment, but after hearing it, I'm reminded that he was the Chiefs play-by-play guy for several years. Right. He's from here. Yeah. He's, he sounded almost like a fan almost calling it while he was that enthused about it. So quite a moment that will be included in Sam McDowell's story, I suspect. So
It is.
Jeff Knight wants to know if Juan Thornhill's out for the season. We don't know that, do we?
We don't know that. I know there's reports out there right now that the Chiefs fear he suffered a season-ending injury, but
Well, we could tell that on the field.
yeah, you can definitely tell on the field, left knee injury, could not put any pressure on it, rode the cart to the locker room, and shortly thereafter, he was first ruled questionable, but then immediately after that, ruled out. And again, with season-ending injuries, it's always the amount of time from the time they leave the field to the time he's designated out. And Andy Reid touched on it after in his post-game press conference. Obviously, he said, we'll know more tomorrow, and we'll get that to you.
I started to notice this after you, Blair, but Juan Thornhill rode in the back of the cart.
Never a bad.
Front of the cart,
Right. Good.
Good, that is true.
Front
back
of the cart, good. Back of the cart, it's not good.
It had every look of an ACL tear. I think
Right.
we're not doctors, but that's what it looked like. And notably, I noticed this in the post-game locker room. He was kind of limping around the room when we were in there and talking to a few guys.
With a brace on the left.
A big brace on over his jeans on his left leg, and he stopped at Tyrann Mathieu' locker, and it sure looked like Tyrann Mathieu was walking him through 2 ACL rehabs that he's been through.
All right, we're going to quote Robert Nakel, one of our loyal viewers, and every participant in the Super Bowl dating back to the 2012 season has been a team that got a first-round bye.
2012, yeah.
2012. Every Super Bowl that's taken place since the playoff expanded to 4 rounds in 19. Oops, where'd it go? You know what? I haven't mastered the. Anyway, you get the idea, right?
Good to get the bye.
Yeah, good to get the bye.
Thanks, Robert, for that. I really appreciate that.
Comes from the Ringer, I guess.
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, very good. So yeah,
Appreciate Robert.
it's a heck of a thing to not play. It's a heck of a thing also either tonight or tomorrow that 5 of us will be changing hotel reservations.
And canceling hotel reservations.
Canceling hotel reservations and applying plane fares to different cities.
Thanks to our friends at Southwest.com, I mean, the ability to change flights easily.
Kathy Christensen wants to know if field conditions were part of Thornhill's injury. I didn't see it happen. It was on a touchdown play, right? Was it on?
It was coming into blitz, Phillip River. I mean, you wrote a lot about it.
Yeah, that's how it looked to me too. I thought it was noteworthy that Andy Reid, he always does his opening statement before a question, and he mentioned the grounds crew. And I wonder if that was planted, of, hey, some people are thinking, maybe this is something you can mention.
Okay, that is interesting. He doesn't say anything without.
He doesn't mention the grounds crew every week. You know what I mean? Like I would find that to be a big coincidence.
Okay, let's talk about this game. We haven't even mentioned the score yet. It was 31-21. Chiefs over the Chargers in a few things. It means a few things. One, the Chiefs finished 12-4 for the second straight year. That never happened in franchise history. Might be Phillip Rivers' last game in a Chargers uniform. After the game, he apparently got emotional and for the first time said,
Yeah, he would consider playing for another team, and that's huge.
Yeah,
that's huge.
I can't see him in a different without a bolt on his helmet, and the third quarter was kind of incredible, right? So the game's, as Sam McDowell mentioned, kind of sputtering along. It was it was interesting because the Chiefs were trailing early because of the Mahomes interception early in the third quarter, and the Chargers go ahead. So wow, I'm thinking, man, this is gonna, it's not unfolding the way we thought it might, right? Especially not the way the last two games were played. And then all of a sudden, McCole Hardman returns a kick 104 yards. I thought he stepped out of bounds, and he didn't say he didn't when I talked to him after the game. But so that happens, and then Damien Williams goes 84 yards on a touchdown run, and those two plays were just remarkable and put a charge into the game and put a charge into the stadium as well. Those were amazing plays. So to me, tell me what you think. Damien Williams, big run. His two touchdown runs, the elusiveness and the strength that he showed in escaping the pile on the first one and then running kind of over the pile on the second one, is it kind of a big development for the Chiefs if he's that kind of guy going into the postseason? That was my biggest concern for the Chiefs going into the game was, what are they going to do at running back with without Spencer Ware? But wow, he showed me a lot today.
Since he returned from missing 3 games with a rib injury, in the past 2 games he's totaled 246 yards, 189 rushing, and 3 total touchdowns. And then to have a running back like that in the playoffs in January is huge, because you got to be able to run the football in the playoffs. And to have Damien Williams, I think you called him Mr. January. I think I overheard that in the press box, because he's repeating what he did last year.
There's one thing about Damien Williams, and this will always be in my head. When everything happened with Kareem Hunt last year and they released him, I was talking with somebody in the organization, was like, ooh, like at running back. Because Kareem Hunt, it was him.
Yes, yes.
I mean, they did not have this RBBC. It was Kareem Hunt and some guys when he needed rest. It's like, you got a big hole now. And immediately this person went into a big spiel about, no, Damien Williams, he's got the goods, LSU, like all this, like, blah, 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 blah. And it was noteworthy also that they gave him a contract extension, just a few weeks after he came in. So this is a guy they really believe in. He's got kind of the complete package. You've written a lot about him, obviously, but he's got the speed, he's got the power, he can catch, pretty good in pass protection. I mean, he's got the goods.
I know we mentioned this on our Thursday Facebook Live. I was going to be interested in the order of play at that position today, and I'm still interested in what unfolded. Right.
Yeah.
So Damien Williams gets bulk of the carries. Darwin Thompson's the second running back in, and the only other person who lined up at running back was Tyreek Hill, right?
Yeah.
At certain gimmicky sort of play calls. So what that means is LaShawn McCoy wasn't on. I don't know if he got any snaps today.
No, I wondered if they would have handled that differently if they'd known that they were going to have a bye. I mean, if they were in a position to have a bye, if they're giving him 2 weeks off, because they gave him last week and this week to try and get him going for the playoffs. But to me, LaShawn McCoy over the last half of the season hasn't shown a lot of explosiveness. And Damien Williams does have explosion, and Darwin Thompson has a little bit of that too. So I don't know how much they see in LaShawn McCoy right now. and also his aging, maybe getting a couple weeks off. Maybe they feel like they'll get a fresher guy in the playoffs, but I still think Damien Williams is going to be the guy in the playoffs regardless.
Yeah, there's no way in the world McCoy starts over
and I don't
him.
think it's going to be a committee. I think Damien Williams is going to be the guy. And I've kind of been on that train for a while that I think for them to be really good offensively, Damien Williams has to play the way he did last January.
I think that's right.
Here you go. Just a quick aside. You do see them trying to insert Darwin Thompson into more and more sort of, for lack of a better term, high leverage spots. Like he's getting in, and maybe this is again the kind of game you can do it in the first half where it's not necessarily that much at stake, or at least they didn't know there was that much at stake, maybe. But it was interesting to me that they continued to try to find ways to get him going, and I don't know. Would we see him before we see LaShawn McCoy in the playoffs?
I think it's possible. Darwin Thompson's best play today was actually on the Hardman kickoff return for a touchdown. He set a great block, and the whole play is designed for Thompson to come around from the right side and loop back and sort of set that play up. And oddly enough, there was nobody for him to block because the hole was already there. But then, he just absolutely punks the kicker to spring him loose there.
Oh, the kicker was down on the sideline after that play. Andy Reid was like helping him up and patting him on the back. It was, yeah.
You get a heck of an effort there, guy. Heck of an effort.
I was a little surprised that he brought it out from 4 yards deep, though. It was a 104-yard kickoff return, and typically the Chiefs haven't been returning those this year.
Dave Tobe's been very candid with us about the fact that it's based more on just, I guess we should just say the quality of the way teams defend kickoffs based on whether or not they bring it out or not is rather than
team specific.
Rather than being exactly how deep you are in the end zone.
If you remember when Dave Tobe first got here in 2013, before they changed the special teams rules and the kickoff rules, he used to always tell his returners, I don't care how deep it is.
No, I know.
Yeah,
Bring it
return
out. Bring it out.
That was refreshing to see Hardman do that.
Well, that's why Niall Davis, in his time here, had a 108, 106-yard kickoff return. The 106 came in the playoffs, right, against Houston. So Patrick Mahomes, to me, this was a really interesting game for him. He played well when he had to play well, but maybe for my thinking, had a game in which he would not grade out. Maybe he probably would grade out as low as he's graded out in a game. Because the only really, the great plays that he had, the 47-yard pass to Tyreek Hill to set up the last touchdown, the 2 throws at the end of the first half, the long one to Hardman, and then the touchdown to Demarcus Robinson. And after that, I don't think there was a throw. He had a few drops. Kelsey dropped a couple today. He tends to do that from time
some
to
games
time.
where it's a couple times. Yeah.
Right. So, and look, I think the Chargers defend Mahomes well. He was 172 yards passing against them in Mexico City, 174 today. If not his lowest, 2 lowest for a full game.
2 of his 3 career low games, right? At maybe his very 2, but
right.
2 of the 3 career
Against
low.
the Chargers.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and then the bad interception. What happened on the interception? Anybody talk to Mahomes?
Tyreek Hill. Patrick didn't address it. Wasn't asked about it, but Tyreek Hill said he ran a bad route, and it was all on him.
Okay, because
So
it's total miscommunication, it looked to me.
Yeah, you had to wonder, but it was funny because the way the play sort of unfurled, it did just look like a complete misfire. But
Live, it looked inaccurate, but you watched the replay, it had to have been a bad route.
yeah.
Or the quarterback can mess up too.
Yeah.
Not Mahomes.
Right.
Come on, Sam.
All right.
It's possible.
So I guess what I'm getting at is the running back was really good today. The special teams, I thought they had their best game of the year. Throw in Colquitt's 61-yard punt.
Yeah, good point.
Harrison Butker's 40-yard field goal into a swirling wind. The defense was what's become its usual good self. If they can overcome the quarterback play.
Hey, I did wonder this though, to what you're saying too. There was sort of this odd rhythm to the game where I think you guys, Sam McDowell, might have added up the number. By the time the Chargers scored that touchdown in the mid-third quarter, that was a long drive. They had run 37 plays to the Chiefs' 8 in the second half. Chiefs just didn't have the ball, and not because they were going 3 and out, but because
they scored on big plays.
Interception and 2 big plays. So it was a little bit of a odd barometer for Patrick today. I also just sort of had this little bit of a feeling he's kind of under wraps in this game. I didn't feel like they were too exotic. I think they just wanted to kind of have a workmanlike, let's get through it.
He didn't get sacked, did he?
Didn't get
I was
sacked.
just going to say they protected him well. The offensive line had a good day.
And Patrick made a point of elaborating on that today, thinking that the line has made strides because it's played together more, right? A little healthier for a few weeks now, and it didn't. I don't remember feeling like he got really harassed either. I mean, he didn't get sacked, but I don't really feel like he got pestered too much with a pretty stout Chargers defensive line.
Yeah.
All right, Sam. I know you spent a lot of time in the locker room after the game, and as is usually the case, it's the defensive guys that hang out the longest.
Yeah.
Frank Clark and Terrell Suggs and Tyrann Mathieu, among others. With every game, you're more impressed with the way they play, and then to talk to them after the game, I just think, what a different locker room it is with these guys in there, just veteran guys who just are they're leaders.
Yeah, I know we've talked about this before, but last year, particularly as the season went on, there was a rift. You could just feel it, you could see it, and it was particularly with the DBs. And they felt disrespected, and justifiably so. And I think they also felt like they weren't being, not protected, but put in the right position by the coaches. And that was true too, right? But they did a bad job of sort of handling that part of it, I think. This year it's been totally different, and for right or wrong, I give the lion's share of that to Tyrann Mathieu. I think that guy is different. I think that a lot of times, like, people like us tend to talk too much about leadership and intangibles. I think we can sort of just assign that for stuff that we can't explain otherwise. But I feel like you can see it.
I know I do.
Yeah. I feel like the difference that he has made, I feel like you can see it, and I also feel like you can hear it in the way that his teammates talk about him, in particular Charvarius Ward. But they all do it, and they look at that guy differently than they have really since Eric Berry was Eric Berry, and that's been a few years. But that secondary is playing really well, and they've got to adjust now, though. That's a big deal.
Yeah,
Juan Thornhill's not their best player. Tyrann Mathieu is their best player in the secondary, but Juan Thornhill's really good. I mean, that was a Pro Bowl level player that they just lost.
Yeah, and some of what Tyrann Mathieu's been able to do this year is because of what Juan Thornhill's been able to do. He explained to me a play actually where against the Raiders where he intercepted Derek Carr earlier in that game, and he broke off. Tyrann Mathieu had broken off his own route, a guy that was heading over the middle to intercept that ball, and he said if he didn't have trust in Juan Thornhill to be there, he wouldn't have even attempted to make that play. And he also said in week 1 or 2 he wouldn't have attempted to make that play because he was unsure what Juan Thornhill was at that point. But late in the by that point, middle to late in the season, he knew Juan Thornhill was going to be there. So I wonder how that dynamic is going to change. And also, Tyrann Mathieu's not really playing safety right now. He's playing up against the line a lot. That's where he prefers to play.
Like a linebacker.
He's playing kind of a slot guy a lot of times too, and I wonder if that's going to have to change a little bit if there's a different guy back there. And I know you probably got into this, but we saw a lot of Armani Watts today, and then
Sorensen played more snaps than we probably
Sorensen, but he seems to play a lot, I think, in the base
in the box
a little
too.
bit.
Yeah.
But I also wonder if maybe you get a bye week now. You've got 2 weeks to prepare for this game instead of 1. If maybe Kendall Fuller is moved more to that position.
Today it was almost like plug and play with Armani Watts. Like they basically everything that Thornhill would have done, they were counting on Watts. And he's a little bit, his scouting report out of college anyway was like a little bit more of a free safety than a box, but can do both. He had played. You looked it up, right? It was 26 snaps on defense.
Yeah, 26 this season.
Before 10. I mean, that's a lot
Wow.
to put on his shoulders going into the games where you start determining legacies. You know what I mean? Like, he's your last defense. He's your center fielder. I mean, that's a lot to. But the alternative is to turn your slot corner, Kendall Fuller. Now he's been playing more safety. Last 2 games he's played more safety than anywhere else. It's just they don't have a lot of. It's a bad choice and a worse choice. I don't know which one's which.
Brian LaBerge says that the interception by the Honey Badger was elite. Out jumped a 6'5" wide receiver.
Yeah.
That was a big time play.
No, absolutely. I mean, and that was a play that required like brains and body. Like he needed both, and he's been in that position. I think more for. I mean, he's obviously like physically talented, but I think he's advanced mentally. I mean, I just think he's smarter than
a lot of it's
90% of the
homework
people
though.
that he's.
You hear
absolutely.
you hear him describe again, going back to that Raiders play. And there was another play too that he described perfectly. It was like, well, they ran that play against this team in this down and situation, and that's how he knew it was coming.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Just along those lines, it's kind of funny. I've been having this thought that he, in some ways, is Patrick's parallel on defense, right? And one of those things is just Patrick's. Did we learn this word last year? Eidetic, whatever it is, photographic memory. There's something. There's something with Tyron.
We learned it because you used it. We all had to look it up.
I learned it because Lee Steinberg used it, and I had to look it. I had to look it up. Then you guys had to look it up. But there's something a little similar in Tyron's wiring that way, and also sort of his persona with feeling like he needs to be out there in the room and be part of everything with everything else. It was a neat moment today. I don't think they fully showed it on TV, but we all kind of got a cackle out of it when Tyron broke up a play on the sideline and he went up and down the whole offense, slapping five with them, and
the guy sitting on the bench.
Yeah. That was the offense, wasn't it? I think, yeah.
I don't know who it was after the game because I haven't transcribed all the tape, but either Frank Clark or Terrell Suggs, must have been Suggs, who was talking about. He's only been here for a little while now, but the swag with which this defense plays, not just individual players, but the coaches have brought it. So we probably haven't talked enough about, Spagnuolo and the assistant coaches that are new here, and just what a whole different level of approach and attitude this defense has.
Dave Merritt is a name you hear a lot when you talk to those guys about like the difference, and there is, and Dave Merritt has said, the biggest change is how the corners are playing. They're more aggressive. Remember how much off the ball they were playing last year? It was crazy. I mean, they were 10, 12 yards off the ball, sometimes even on 3rd and 6. They're playing back there. And now these guys are in your face, aggressive. And look, they're different too. I think Steve Nelson is better than most Chiefs fans believe, but Charvarius Ward is a completely different player than he was even in his limited time last year. Breland is, a physical guy. I mean, they've got more guys that can execute that kind of game plan anyway.
So when we talked last week, we spoke to potential Chiefs playoff opponents for this coming week among the Titans, the Steelers, and the Raiders. One of those could still be a Chiefs opponent only in 2 weeks. But now we throw the Patriots into the mix and the Bills. Everybody's a possibility for the Chiefs' first playoff opponent.
Well, not the Patriots, right? For the first one.
No, the Patriots.
I'm sorry, not whoever's the 6. I'm sorry.
The 6. That's
Titans.
right. The 6 can't be the Chiefs' opponent. That's right. Anybody but the 6. So that would be Bills are the 5 seed, right? Aren't they like
Correct.
The 5? So it could be Bills, and then whoever finishes 4. Patriots are the 3.
Houston,
Yeah.
And Tennessee's up 14 as we speak on Houston, so it's most likely going to be Tennessee and New England.
So then the Chiefs, it would be
New England if New England
Buffalo
wins.
or Houston.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
The Chiefs will get the best remaining seed.
Yep.
And the Ravens will get the worst.
Yep.
And how are the Ravens doing, by the way?
They're actually beating Pittsburgh without
their starters.
Without their starters.
No. Pittsburgh hasn't had a starting quarterback all year. So anyway, I guess just a few days ago, I kind of played that annual Chiefs game where we just think of all the ways the Chiefs could lose to any one of those opponents. And
by the way, never would have guessed touchdown to yourself. that Mariota did. That one was new.
But now, is there a different feeling about this Chiefs team going into the postseason? And you don't look at. I mean, you have to look at opponents and how they can threaten your team. But I see a more complete team going into this year's playoffs than I did last year. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I actually think if you're a Chiefs fan, you kind of want the Patriots to win and play the Patriots here. You've beaten them already just a few weeks ago. I just don't think the Patriots are a great team. And I mean, I actually told these guys coming in, I thought the Patriots could lose today. I just don't have
Actually,
I don't have a lot of confidence in what New England's doing right now.
The way I thought you were going to phrase this is that one of our group,
somebody in our group thought
was alert
maybe the
enough to
Dolphins
say that,
could
but
win.
now you're all going Hollywood on us.
Sam likes to gloat. You got to know that. Sam is correct about something, he'll bring it up.
Let us know.
Yeah, in a passive aggressive way.
If Tennessee wins and Houston wins, you play Houston, and I think the Patriots are a better matchup for the Chiefs than Houston is.
Agreed.
Yeah, I do. I think like in order that you'd want to see, like at least for me, I think it's Buffalo, New England, Houston.
You
Of
put
those
Buffalo
Ahead
over
of
New England?
For teams you want to see.
That the Chiefs would have the highest chance of the Chiefs winning.
What would the
I would go Buffalo, New
Yeah,
England.
I agree with
Houston.
that order.
I'd go New England over Buffalo.
You think New
And,
England's-
and hear me out on this. I think there's a reason why the Dolphins beat the Patriots. And what's not being stated enough is Brian Flores knows Belichick. And when I think of Buffalo, I look over there and I see a lot of Andy Reid roots over there. McDermott, Chad Hall, among others. And they'll know how to prepare for Reid if they do face him in the playoffs. Patriots are just not the same team anymore. There, I said it. I've always been one of those Patriot apologists. No, but they're the Patriots. No, they're not the same Patriots anymore. I agree with Sam.
Sam, our resident odds maker expert, what would be the lines against each one of those?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I would assume
I would
against
assume the Chiefs would be favored against all of them at home.
all of them.
New
at
England,
home.
Buffalo.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
just say New England, Buffalo,
Absolutely.
or
Houston.
Houston.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when Houston came in here, I think they were favored 5.5. Now that's been 10 weeks ago.
Yeah.
They were 3.5 underdog against the Patriots, or 3-point underdog against the Patriots when they went there. There used to be the 3 points given to the home team, which has changed a little bit, but it's still pretty similar. And I would think they'd be favored by at least a field goal against New England, and probably about a touchdown maybe against Buffalo.
That seems about right. 6 maybe. 6 against Buffalo. Brian LaBerge wants to remind Herbie that Andy does pretty well against his proteges.
That he does. But McDermott beat him the last time they played each other.
There we go.
What's his name?
Brian LaBerge.
Brian. McDermott beat Andy Reid last time they played.
Dude, wasn't Herbie just saying that like whenever he's right about something that Sam likes to
And I wrote that story. See, Brian read my story. I know they do well against him.
Okay. So the regular season has ended for the Chiefs. As we're all we're going to do is talk playoffs from here on in. But I think we should at least. I spent a lot of time talking about this team and what they've been about, but this season, the 12-4 season, that had a kind of a typical Andy Reid slump in the middle, or somewhere. There's always a slump period. Actually, last year came at the end of the season, and Chiefs still were close, this close to the Super Bowl, but it did come at two. They lost 2 of their last 3 regular season games. This year it was 4 out of 6 in the middle of the season, I think.
It was
4 out of 6 losses.
It was.
In the middle. The year before that, it was that 5 out of 6, I think, in the middle of the season. What has this regular season been about? Patrick Mahomes was hurt, missed 2.5 games, but nowhere near the numbers that he put up last year. Is the league figuring him out a little bit?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. He's still an elite quarterback. And is there more tape on him? Absolutely. And I think, you can probably go back to last year and see how other teams defended him this year. But to totally figure him out, and Andy Reid is always going to evolve with that as well. So I don't think you can fully figure out what Patrick Mahomes is about as long as Andy Reid is here.
Okay.
You do think he's still an elite quarterback, though?
Yeah, I still think Mahomes is an elite quarterback. Yes.
Out on that limb?
Yeah, I'm out on the limb there, baby.
Okay. I don't look. I'm just not used to. We were so spoiled with him last year, right? And you saw the one long pass today to Hill, and I just should I take this for my wife, for my daughter? Yeah.
Does she not watch?
Hi, Anna.
Hey, sweetie.
Does she not watch?
Hey. Okay.
We're on speaker.
Okay. Well, no.
We don't know what to do when Blair's not when Blair's not here. We'll delete the
Don't call for
charge.
about 10 minutes, okay?
Wow.
Thanks.
Yeah. Sounds like we've got about 10 minutes left in the show. Guys.
Let's wrap
I'll
it up.
say this.
Wrap
I
it up.
don't think the offense has not been what it was last year. It's been like a significant step. I think, look, a lot of injuries and all that stuff. But even today, I mean, they're healthy, and they weren't clicking, you know?
I agree with Vahe in the sense that I didn't think they were opening up the playbook a lot today. And I don't know what the reason was for that. Maybe it was because they didn't want to show anything going into the playoffs, but you came out and you said you were playing to win. And then I didn't feel like they were thoroughly opening up the playbook.
I feel like it's a combination of all these things, but I do keep kind of coming back to this playing the complementary game a little bit. That happened the last couple weeks where they were just draining clock in the second half. Today, I don't really quite know what it was about, but it was a little weird to have a 21-minute period where they had 8 plays. And that's going to throw off numbers.
That's true.
So I don't know. I think there's a gear that we haven't seen though. I do. I think there's some chicanery ahead too. I think they've got a little up their sleeve. I really do.
Good stuff.
Kyle Coffey,
Tomfoolery, if you will.
Kyle Coffey calls it the Chiefs season was they were resilient. The defense picked up the offense. Offense picked up the defense.
That's true.
Yeah,
I
it's
thought
incredible.
that's
They ended
interesting.
up with the same record as they did last year, but just the way they got there was so completely different. Even though they've got a lot of the same personnel, especially on offense. I mean, the defense carried them for the last month of the season or so, and I think because of that, maybe you do feel a little bit more confident going into the postseason, especially now that they've gotten past the first round automatically.
Todd Bryan says, thanks to Anna, we have 10 minutes left in the show. He is right. All right.
I'm just wondering why your family's not watching the show
Yeah,
to already know that you're occupied.
Right. All right, well, let's wrap it up. So I can make a couple calls. What are we going to do this week? What are we going to do?
I think we just all get the week off too, right?
Yeah, right.
Recharge for the
Yeah.
playoffs.
There we-
Heal the cuts.
Get
and
our
bruises.
bodies
There
right.
we go. Get our bodies right. There we go.
No, we're not. How about just a real quick final thought? We'll start with you, Sam.
I think that I think that there's a different feeling in that locker room, particularly on the defensive side. And I have spent a lot of time in post games and during the week with the defensive players, but there's a noticeable change in the level of confidence, obviously, but also cohesion. I think that's been important. I don't know that they'll be in the Super. It's hard to get closer to the Super Bowl than they were last year without getting there. And Baltimore's still a hell of a team and a team that matches up with some of the stuff that the Chiefs still struggle with. So that's still a big challenge. But, from sort of the ups and downs, you got to feel good about where they are right now.
You going to ditto this again, Herbie?
No, all I'm going to say is I remember when I first got here from the Saints.
Where'd you come from?
From the Saints.
Okay.
Herbie, you come from?
The Saints. I remember a lot of people were blaming me because the Chiefs started losing and Patrick Mahomes got hurt, etc. But no.
How vain of you.
In all seriousness, because I can't make that comparison from last year's team to this year's team, but I will say from the teams that I have covered, even first time around on the Chiefs beat, there is a swagger in that locker room. There's absolutely a swagger in there. And like Terrell Suggs said, you need that in January, and this bodes very well for the Chiefs.
He's been there. He's
Yeah.
done that.
I got thinking a little bit about where this sort of drive started. It started as soon as they lost that game so close last year, and I spoke with Charvarius briefly, and he said it was almost the happiest moment of his life.
Yeah.
And I think he's probably used that term before, but it really hit me. And Andy Reid's stock line on this is kind of we were 4 inches away. That was, I guess, how far he thought the offside was. So I think all of that stuff is sort of the setup to getting just to this moment, right? It's now we're here for the real story. That's all.
All right, it's good.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of to build off that, I think we all knew this team was going to the postseason. It was just about how they were playing once they got there. Now they're taking a 6-game win streak into the postseason with the defense playing better than it has in probably, 6-7 years here. The offense, I think you're confident because of the history of and especially the quarterback. And so, I mean, I think they're a team that can beat anybody. Will they beat Baltimore? Will they win their set? I don't know, but I think they're a team that can beat anybody right now.
It's remember that the Chiefs went 7-1 on the road this year and 5-3 at Arrowhead.
Yeah.
They were damn good on the road this season. So
Before you close out, can I just finish one thing?
yes, sir.
I just want to point out in August, before I even returned to Kansas City,
Where were you?
When you were still in
Who were you
Norway.
Who were you covering?
I predicted in August a Saints and Chiefs Super Bowl.
Yes, you did.
The clash is on the way.
All right. Well, that's the final word. Thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks to Beth Welsh for producing. Join us on Thursday. We'll be back on Thursday. Oh, yeah, we're doing another one of those. Even though the Chiefs don't play this week, I'll guarantee you we'll be coming at you Thursday morning.
We'll come up with something to talk about.
Yeah, from a Big O Tires from somewhere in, Kansas or Missouri. We've been known to travel. So for Sam, Vahe, Herbie, and Sam, I'm Blair. Good night, and we'll talk to you again soon.